What's up, everybody? Welcome back into Southeastern 14 for another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson. And before we get going, let's talk to you about our good friends at Bet Online, which they remain your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. UFC, NHL, NBA, college basketball are in full swing. Bet Online is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions, all the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to Bet Online today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That is all caps, BLEAV. Again, all caps, BLEAV. That's our promo code for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit at Bet Online, where the game starts. All righty. What's up, Mr. Greeson, as you join us from Times Free Press headquarters in Chattanooga?
Just looking forward to hopefully a great weekend of basketball, a first full footballless hangover weekend. And we just got to kind of try to make our way through because we probably need to officially start the clock on how many days it is until Labor Day.
Yes, we do. And I don't know if we'll have time for it today, but we do have SEC football regular season win totals are up at some books. That shall remain nameless unless Bet Online has them, which I haven't even looked to see if they have them. But anywho, let's get started with tomorrow's first game, noon Eastern, Texas A&M at Alabama. Now, we are recording early Friday morning. We do not have lines yet. I wrote down Alabama minus 8.5. Ken Palm has Bama minus 10 and 160. And before we get to Jay, I'll share a few stats. So Alabama is 11-1 straight up at home, undefeated in the SEC, though, I should add. And 9-2-1 against the spread in 12 home games this year. A&M is 4-4 both straight up and ATS in 8 road games. But the Tide's lone home outright loss was to Clemson in non-conference. They are 5-0 straight up, 4-0-1 against the spread in SEC home games. They had the 4-point win against Auburn, but they've absolutely smashed everybody else in SEC play with wins by 32, 21, 18, and 27 points. They're in first place in the SEC with a 9-2 record, 1/2 game ahead of both Auburn and South Carolina, 1 game ahead of Tennessee, and the Gators and Kentucky trail the Tide by 2 games as they are both 7-4 in SEC action. Jay mentioned, as I gave the odds to win the SEC regular season title last week, he said 95-1 on Kentucky. Sounded okay. Well, Kentucky, the Gonzaga loss was non-conference, so that was irrelevant. And then they beat Ole Miss, and they are down to 55-1. Now, last week, Auburn was the plus 130 chalk, but they lose at Florida. Alabama's now the plus 130 chalk, and Alabama was favored 2 weeks ago. Auburn has the next shortest odds at plus 210, Tennessee plus 230, South Carolina 20-1, Florida 40-1, and like I said, Kentucky 55-1. So I said I think Bama 8.5. Ken Palm says Bama 10 and 160. On the regular season odds, thoughts, or A&M Bama, or both? What you got to say, Jay?
Well, first, there are actually a couple of intriguing games to me this weekend in the league. And I think we saw it Wednesday night. And well, I know we'll talk about Auburn, we'll talk about South Carolina, but that was a biblical whipping that I don't even think Moses could have derailed on what Auburn put on South Carolina. Now, where I'm going with that, with this noon start, Alabama and Auburn have the 2 best home court advantages in the league. And it's not really even all that close. The O-Dome is good, but it's not the crazed environment that Nate Oates and Bruce Pearl have turned Tuscaloosa and Neville Arena into. And I mean, you said 8.5. Ken Palm said 10. I'm thinking Vegas is now about to jack these up to a place that they're going to dare you to bet against these home teams. When Alabama and Auburn are at home, it wouldn't shock me if this is 12.5.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And
was
you know what? The only way to play it is to lay it,
yep.
because I mean, either that's going to be a one possession game, which at that point you want to maybe take A&M on a little taste on the money line, because A&M's strengths are different than Alabama's strengths. A&M's big, and they rebound, and they can pound you inside, and they like to go inside, and they guard. But Buzz Williams is going to lose his cool, and he's going to take his jacket off, and he's going to stomp around, and then Nate Oates is going to show his punchable face, and all of that's going to work, and everybody's going to go, and the crowd's going to get bonkers. Alabama's going to score, man, and they score at home. I mean, at epic levels. They put 80, right at 80, on an Auburn defense that's top 5 in the country. And when they get there, they are efficient and they are lethal. There's no way I play anything but Alabama and laying the points here.
Yeah, I think my 8.5 number was just a bad number. And now we do get A&M in bounce back mode after losing at the buzzer to Vandy, but they also have to travel twice in whatever
Right.
4 day stretch. I will
And
add,
they're not getting on an airplane in Hartsfield. All right.
right,
Traveling out of College Station is,
yeah,
I mean, there's no Travelocity smooth plan from College Station to Tuscaloosa.
correct. So these teams, they split a pair of meetings last year. A&M won in College Station 67-61 in the regular season finale, and then they met in the finals of the SEC tournament at Bridgestone in Nashville, and Nate Oates' team put it on them 82-63 as a 5-point favorite. But A&M is 5-1, but straight up and against the spread in the last 6 in this rivalry. So Buzz has had Nate's number. All right, the over for the year is 17-7 overall for Bama. The over's hitting 3 straight for A&M to improve to 13-11 overall. And Jay noted how, excuse me, Alabama, how they score, and they do. And I haven't been doing this lately because it kind of went on a cold stretch during SEC play, but I was doing it in non-conference play a lot. Bama's first half team total over and their team total for the game over. I don't know those numbers now. I might be looking at that. It's going to be either that or laying the points with Bama. But I think I would probably do the team totals over, because I have a healthy amount of respect for A&M, even though Alabama has been murdering their opponents at home. I could see A&M playing them tight. I mean, so Auburn, and we'll talk about this when we get to that game. Auburn's won 12 of their 13 home games by 15 or more. The team they beat by only 11, their smallest margin of victory, it was A&M. So, yeah. So I think Jay wants Bama. I want to back Bama. Now, if it's single digits, I probably will back Bama. I don't think it's going to be that. And so I'll probably be looking at their first half or for the game team total to go over. Because with A&M's defense, they probably, those numbers probably won't be as high as they normally are. Maybe we get a lower mid 80s number on Alabama's team total for the game.
Well,
All
let me
right.
ask you this, though. Let me ask you this
Yeah.
on just a big picture gambling perspective. I know when we see mismatched teams in football, we lean towards the first half on team totals or overs or whatever else, because we know they're going to be competitive and they're going to keep the starters in and they're going to do all these other things. Well, basketball is a different kind of beast. I would lean more towards the team total over for the whole game, because Texas A&M is still going to be in it early and guarding. When that thing starts rolling downhill in Tuscaloosa and they're hitting threes and that place is going bonkers, I mean, it can be what happened Wednesday night when South Carolina got steamrolled in Auburn.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they're, and I think we both think it's going to be somewhat lopsided, so they probably won't get a foul fest, but you know, you tend to get more free throws in the second half, and so. But I mean, their first half, they were hitting first half and game team totals over like every time back in non-conference. So I was doing both. But yeah, there's certainly a case to be made that you'd rather do it for the game because maybe you don't shoot threes well in the first half, and you can get a lot of free throws and et cetera in the second half. All right. So let's go next to Florida at Georgia. Oh, and by the way, Alabama and A&M. That is a game on. I thought I had the
Got to be
network.
the SEC network, right?
It's the noon game. I'm pretty sure it's ESPN, and I thought I wrote it down, but I guess I didn't. Oh yeah, I did. It is ESPN. Okay, 1 Eastern. It is the SEC network for Florida at Georgia. Florida's won 9 in a row over the Dogs, but when they met on January 27th, Florida blew a 21-point lead, and Georgia came back, forced overtime. Florida won 102-98, but Georgia covered. The Gators have won 5 in a row at Stegeman in Athens. The Gators are 2-4 straight up, 3-3 against the spread in 6 road games. Georgia 11-3 straight up, 5-8-1 against the spread at home. The Gators in their last 7, regardless of venue, 6-1 straight up, 5-2 ATS. The only loss by 1 at A&M 2 Saturdays ago when they led by double digits with 17 minutes left, and only made 6 of 11 at the line. And A&M made 15 of 24 at the stripe. Now Georgia's lost 5 in a row, 1-4 against the spread. And Florida's been an over team all year, but the under's hitting 3 straight and 7-2 in Florida's last 9. So I'm thinking Florida 4.5 and 160. Ken Palm has Florida 3 and 157. If Florida is 4 or less, I'll be on the Gators. If they are 3 or fewer, I'll be on them pretty somewhat aggressively. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna preface this with this statement. You have your finger, just as a fan and a follower of all the inner workings of Florida basketball, you have your finger on their pulse better than I do. But I'm going to offer this cautionary tale. I don't think a single basketball game means more to a coach in this conference than what Saturday means for Mike White in Athens.
Fair.
And I mean, you're right. These two teams are trending in opposite directions, but they're trending so drastically in opposite directions that if it's only 3, it's going to check that box for me that if Vegas gives me a number that looks so out of place, I got to wonder what they know that I don't. What does their algorithm tell me? Because Florida's a lot better than Georgia, but Georgia's going to be motivated. And I think if it's 4 or north of 4, I'm going to be hard-pressed not to take the home team and maybe even take the home team on the money line. And so, but I trust you. Nailed Florida at home, wearing Auburn out last week. Nailed it. And I hope you made as much money on it as your conviction the last time we got with our listeners portrayed. But this one feels like a spot that Mike White has preached to his kids that this one is critical.
Yeah, and look, I mean, Florida is far from a flawless team. I mentioned they gave up the 21-point lead to Georgia at home back in late January. I mean, they just gave up a 20-point lead to LSU the other night and almost lost. Jordan Wright had a 6-footer uncontested to force overtime at the buzzer and missed. Yeah, I mean, and Florida shot selection is an issue at times, and they just struggle to get stops. But man, Clayton and Pullen their offense has just been so good here lately. Zion Pullen might be the most underrated player in the country. Yeah, so I mean, and let's remember also now, Georgia had an 11-point lead at home with 7 minutes left against Tennessee. They led Alabama for double digits for like 20 plus minutes at home, and then end up blowing that one. So I mean, Georgia's been really close, and they're 14-10. If they hold on and win those games, they're 16-8 with quad one wins over Tennessee and Alabama. If they just play 40 minutes instead of 35 minutes, and they're probably in that next four out, in the bubble convo. So, yeah, no, I could see Georgia having one of their best efforts of the year. But if Florida's four or fewer, I'll probably be on them. I'm not saying I'll be on them big. Um, so we're on differing opinions there, but I understand everything Jay is pointing out. All right, let's go. Arkansas at Mississippi State. This is at 2 p.m. Eastern, and
Let's be quick here because
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
narrative
yeah.
here is there's no possible way to bet on Arkansas unless they're getting 75 points from the Washington Generals, which is the team that the Globetrotters used to beat every Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports for you young people. Arkansas has quit on Eric Musselman. Period. End of conversation. That team is too talented to be this bad, to have a 30-plus point loss to Auburn at home, a record in Bud Walton Arena, a near 30-point loss against Tennessee at home in a place that place enjoys basketball and has a tradition way better than what this is. And there's no possible way, I don't even care what the number is, that I can, in good conscience, ever say, you don't want to bet on whoever Arkansas is playing. I get that. Don't bet on Arkansas.
No. Okay, so Arkansas's SEC road game they won was at Missouri. Missouri's still winless in SEC play. Their other SEC road games lost by 10 at Georgia, 22 at Florida, 26 at Ole Miss, 21 at LSU. Would they lose by 31 at home the other night to Tennessee, 35 to Auburn? I agree with everything you say. So Ken Palm's got Mississippi State at 13. Would you lay up to us? What number would you lay? Are you going to lay a big number?
I'm not going to lay a big number because Mississippi State's kind of offensively constipated.
Sure.
And they can go long stretches to where Mississippi State just needs to win. Those bubble teams, you can't afford a bad home loss. So it may get tense at the end and they win by 8 and they're celebrating. If it's 13-15, that's almost like a 25-point line for an Alabama or teams that really push pace and really score. So, no, I'm in a million years, don't take this as a signing off the note about I'm all over Starkville. But there is no way I'd rather bet on the devil himself right now than bet on Arkansas in terms of what they've got going on in basketball in Fayetteville.
All right, we'll move on. That's an ESPNU 2 p.m. Eastern tip. We'll be fairly quick on this one as well. LSU at South Carolina, 3:30 p.m. Eastern tip on the SEC Network. LSU 11-12, straight up 10-14 ATS. They are 1-6 straight up, 3-4 ATS on the road. South Carolina bounce back mode after that beatdown, but they're 13-1 straight up, 9-5 ATS at home. I made the number South Carolina 8. Ken Palm has South Carolina only 6 and 142. One last note before we hear Jay's opinion. For what it's worth, the over has hit in 8 in a row head-to-head between South Carolina and LSU. All right, your thoughts?
I think this is complete and total bounce back mode. I think you talked about A&M in bounce back mode, but A&M's going on the road. And that's a whole different kettle of fish if you're going to talk about trying to right the ship. South Carolina got housed on Wednesday. I'm certain it was a pretty quiet trip back to Columbia. I'm certain Thursday's practice, knowing Lamont Parrish, because he used to be here in Chattanooga, was pretty focused. Probably not super harsh because they've had a great year. They've already punched their ticket. They've overachieved by every metric. You need to kind of redirect that about, hey, everybody has a bad day. Everybody in every walk of life. It's not the outcome of the bad day. It's the outcome of the day after the bad day. And I believe Lamont is going to be in the moment. I think this is going to be 25 plus.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess they're giving a lot of respect to LSU playing a 2-point game at Florida the other night. I can't imagine this number only being 6. I think it'll be at least 8. If it's 6 or fewer, I'm all over South Carolina,
I'm with
100%.
you. I'm with
All
you.
right. All right, to the main event. Do we know somebody who might be at Neville Arena tomorrow night?
You may know a whole collection of folks and their family. Me and the Little Greasons are planning on headed down to Auburn first thing tomorrow morning. We're not going to get there for college game day, but hey, it's almost chill bump worthy to talk about what Bruce Pearl has built in Auburn. That I mean, you and I are roughly of the same age and SEC basketball fans for a long, long time now. Thinking that Auburn would have a home court advantage that is in the same breath with Allen Fieldhouse and Cameron and a lot of these places nationally is hard to fathom for a guy who was there when there were like 2,800 people for a Georgia Auburn game in a 15,000 seat arena at circa 1990.
I went to Florida at Auburn 2 or 3 times at Beard Eves when I lived in Atlanta, and there were about 2,500 people there both times, and we just went and sat wherever the hell we wanted in lower level, just
And there
like
were
it would.
probably, I know you went to Florida games, so there were probably just as many Florida fans as there
Yes,
were.
from
I mean,
Atlanta.
hey, think about it this way. In the many moons ago, before Pearl, Kentucky going to Auburn would be probably 50-50, if not more.
That's a question I want to ask you, and you'll have to report back next week because y'all do have such great attendance. I want to know if it's the fewest game involving Kentucky you've ever been to, whether it's the SEC tournament, Kentucky on the road, whatever. I bet that we're going to have the fewest representatives in blue in a road game in the SEC in a long time. Would be my guess.
Without question. I mean,
Yard, because no Auburn fans are going to be selling their tickets to Kentucky fans.
and brother, I gotta tip the visor to my wife's parents who live down there, who live in Auburn, and they set us up early on with these, and it's damn tempting not to put them on the market because
Sure.
they're like $500 a seat now for a basketball game
That's
in
wild,
Auburn.
right? That's crazy. I love it. I love it. So, all right, all right. Did we guess? Okay, what's your guess that Ken Palm's number is?
Well, I think Vegas's number is going to be higher than Ken Palm's
Yeah,
because Ken Palm is going to grade these two teams. And I'm going to preface this by saying Kentucky's got more NBA players than Auburn does. But Vegas is going to dare anybody to bet on Kentucky. And I don't even know what the number is, but I can tell you this now. I'm on Auburn, just like you and I talked about. We talked about it in the green room. We were early on the LSU overtrain in September in football, and it made us a whole lot of money. I've been trying to tell people Auburn at home is a different animal, and they're
13-0.
They're 9-4 against the number at home against all competition. They're unbeaten against SEC competition.
And they've won every game, all 13 by 11 or more, and they've won 12 of 13 by 15 or more.
And two of those 4 losses one was to Penn by half a point, and one was to like Alabama A&M, and they were laying 31 and they won by 30. So, and 3 of the non-covers were during either Thanksgiving or Christmas break, which does not have the same student atmosphere in the arena.
I'm looking at December 22nd, which was and we both had Auburn either minus 20 and 1/2 or 21, and they won 82-62. So that's 2 of their non-covers that were by a half point or 1 point.
And 3 of the non-covers were when students were out of town. Now, They still had good crowds, but it was not. It was not the jungle underneath.
Sure.
And brother, that place is going to be lathered against Kentucky.
What would be the highest amount where you wouldn't bet Auburn? Like how big would the number have to be?
15.
Okay, so 14 and a half or fewer, you're laying it.
Yep.
So Ken Palm's got it 10. I think it's going to be more though.
Well, Vegas is going to be reactionary to what happened Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Kim Palm crunches numbers in his analytics.
Sure.
And again, Kentucky's unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
But I'll also tell you this: Bruce Pearl is a much better in-game coach than John Calipari is. Much better.
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of people are, but yes, I agree. Now there is an injury, so Kentucky was finally full strength for the first time in ages the other night, but then Trey Mitchell gets hurt, like a different injury. He had been having a knee injury. So anyhow, he hurts his shoulder the other night. I'm just like doing a Twitter search on him right now because covers.com did not have him on the injury update, but he's on the injury. I mean, he's questionable, I think, at best. Doesn't look like oh wait, here's one article. Likely to keep him out. So I'd say he's questionable to doubtful, and that's a pretty big deal, especially when you got to give up some fouls on Broom. It's just one
Well, you got
less
to give
big.
up fouls on Broom. And Auburn, one of Auburn's big strengths, both home and road, and one of the reasons I think they are, when we get to our tournament show, I actually think their best basketball is in front of them. They are truly 10 deep. They've got 10 players that average 14 plus minutes a game. And they are happy to wear on you. When they beat Alabama, a good Alabama team, and beat their eyes out 10 days ago in Neville, they got them in world-class foul trouble because it was so physical back and forth. You don't have enough bodies to keep fouling with what Auburn is happy to do.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And there's also this little bit of revenge mode for Bruce Pearl, losing by 32 at Rupp last year. That might come up in the pregame convo. Broom was in foul trouble that game, only played 26 minutes, only had 12 points and 1 rebound. Antonio Reeves had 21
Hey,
for.
Reeves is great. DJ
Yeah.
Wagner is great. Reed Shepherd is great. I mean, they've got world-class talent. And you know what? My second favorite bet in this game is Kentucky on the money line. I mean, I'm willing to lay 14 points, but if Kentucky gets rolling and that place gets tense, who knows? I mean,
They won outright at Tennessee when they were a big, huge underdog middle of last year, like late January last year.
Because one, they've got future pros. They've got future NBA dudes. And two, they've got NBA dudes in Shepherd and Wagner and Reeves and those guys who've been playing in big moments forever. So if momentum's a crazy thing, it's like inertia. It goes in both directions. So if the inertia is carrying Auburn and KD Johnson and all those energy players and the place is going bonkers, KD bar the door, they could beat them as bad as they beat South Carolina. But if the inertia flats and they're looking around and starting to get tight and the crowd's getting nervous, and I mean, that works against you almost as much as the positive momentum works for you.
Sure. All right, a couple more points on Kentucky. If you're a Kentucky fan, you were finally glad to see them play some defense the other night when they beat Ole Miss 75-63, because they had allowed 77 points minimum to 10 of their 11 previous opponents, with the only exception being a 63-57 win at Arkansas. And we've covered Arkansas here. So you're a Kentucky fan. All right, we need to keep playing defense like this. And for over backers on Kentucky, the over was on an 18-3 run, but obviously the under hit the other night. So the over now 18-4 in Kentucky's last 22. And remember, Trey Mitchell, key player for Kentucky, probably want to get his status going into this one. Okay, two more that we're not going to spend a ton of time on because one's a complete mismatch. It's on SEC Network at 6 p.m. Eastern. That's Vanderbilt at Tennessee. Ken Palm's got Tennessee at 22 and 142. They played in Nashville January 27th. Vols won 75-62. Did not cover by a half point. They were favored by 13 and a half, and it went under the 141 and a half point tally. I will say Vandy's covered 4 in a row in this rivalry. And I will say that the over is 15-8-1 overall for Tennessee. The under's 15-8-1 overall for Vandy, but the Vandy's seen 3 straight overs. So if it's 22 and 142, I say maybe the over, but it's Vandy or pass on the side, but I don't think I'll take Vandy.
It's a complete pass on the side because I think Vandy cares about competing with Tennessee way more than Tennessee cares about bludgeoning Vandy and that's understandable. One of them looks at them as a rival, the other looks at them as a speed bump, and that's fine. But I also am real curious on at what point in time do these kids quit on Jerry Stackhouse, knowing that the light at the end of the tunnel is indeed a train, and because his days are numbered, they got to be. And I mean, I think if you are you have penciled aside, this is the game I'm going to watch and bet on. I agree with you on the over because I think even though Vandy guards, it's a low total because Vandy guards. But Tennessee's still going to score, and I think at home you start getting the momentum and the electric, and they could run away from them and do not unlike what Auburn did to South Carolina, where you're thinking, okay, it's a mismatch, but the home crowd's feeding the Auburn kids, and they cover almost the over on their own.
Yep. All right. Let's go. The nightcap. Last one. Missouri at Ole Miss, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Ole Miss 13-1 straight up, 8-6 against the spread at home. Missouri 2-6 straight up, 3-5 against the spread on the road. The Rebels are only 3-5 against the spread as double-digit favorites. Mizzou 2-2 ATS is a double-digit dog. Mizzou's only W since December 4th at home to Central Arkansas. They've lost 11 in a row, all in the SEC, 5 by 12 or more. Ken Palm has Ole Miss at 11, total of 145. Hard pass for me. Your thoughts? Ole Miss
100% hard pass. I don't trust Ole Miss, but I know I hate Missouri, and not the school, not its alumni, not its fans. This basketball team. There's no reason to believe in anything they're doing to believe in a positive result. And I'll even say this: if you are a trend writer and want to take some notes, and I'm going to start Saturday and take notes, but I think LSU, Vandy, Missouri, and Arkansas are going to limp to the finish to a place that picking winners, while valuable, picking losers is just as valuable. Because if you know the teams that are going to lose, then you're going to win bets. So I think all 4 of those teams are about to phone this in because they've got no hope, and they're about to go against 10 other teams who feel like they're bubblicious at the very worst and want to make a push.
All right. Let's get you updated on Joe Lunardi's latest edition of Bracketology that he released at ESPN.com earlier today. The only bubble team in the SEC is Ole Miss as a part of the last 4 in, but they're ahead of Nevada, Utah, and Gonzaga. I guess Gonzaga is the very last team. that is in. We have Tennessee as a number 2 seed, 8-5 against the spread at home. Missouri 2-2 ATS is a double-digit dog. 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 Missouri 2-2 ATS is a 2 seed in the Midwest region. We have Kentucky as a number 6 seed in the Midwest region, and we have South Carolina as a 6 seed in the East region, and we have Auburn, a 3 seed in the South, Florida, an 8 seed in the South. Ole Miss would be in the first 4, playing Gonzaga for the right to play a 6 seed at FAU. Alabama's a 3 seed in the West. Mississippi State is a 9 seed in the West. Did that get all 9 SEC teams? I
Yes,
believe.
because we talked about the 4 dregs that are about to just sludge to the finish line, and then the only one left out there looking around in both directions is wondering what Georgia's going to be after their wretched last 5-game stretch.
All right, let me give you Auburn's path to the Final Four. Let me see what you think of it. Obviously, you would beat 14th seeded Akron. You would get the winner of Texas Tech and Nebraska ball. I think I'd like Auburn there.
I would too, but hey, you want to talk about 2 teams that are strikingly different, and I know we want to focus on the SEC betting world. Nebraska at home is a mother.
Oh yeah, big time,
And
and bad on the road.
Yes. So you're talking about, all right, maybe Auburn is the A team of a superpower at home and a touch sketchy on the road, but Nebraska's in that team picture.
Yeah, that home away dichotomy has been stellar. Fading Nebraska on the road and backing them at home. They are at home tomorrow. I'm forgetting who they're playing, but they're supposed to be an 8-point favorite. So Auburn, I think you like your 2 seed. I think it's a weak 2 seed that you would be playing if form holds. Marquette would be the 2 seed. I
Oh, I
like
love
y'all.
that. I love
Yeah.
that because they are a team. They're a basketball sharing team atmosphere with Shaka Smart, and that's fine. But you're not deeper than Auburn, and you're going to give Bruce Pearl you get out of the first weekend, then you get those extra 4 days to prepare. Bruce Pearl coached circles around Shaka Smart.
And y'all have very fast physical guards on the perimeter for Kolick
Yes.
and putting some athleticism and physicality on him. I mean, he deals with that in the Big East too, but I like the way y'all would defend one of the best point guards in the country. So the 1 seed in that region is Houston, but that 1 seed Houston, which would be a rematch of the round of 32 in Birmingham last year. If Auburn could have made a free throw, it might have been a different ball game. But that Houston team might be looking at that Gator squad in a 1-8 matchup. Oh.
Well, I know you've got your eyes set on that. If Houston and Auburn got together, the over under may be 82.5.
Yeah, another little rock fight. What was it like? It was got in the 1 teens last year, if I'm remembering right, barely. All right, what else? Oh, bad news. I gave y'all to back Air Force overs last week, and it cashed on Saturday barely, but it cashed pretty easily the other night. The bad news is Air Force does not play this weekend. Damn it. So any other thoughts we want to get into? Should I rip off
Hey,
this?
just for a gambling audience, and I know it's not SEC, but it's where I'm sitting. In the Southern Conference, UTC has dominated everybody not named Stanford. They had 1 bad game. They are 10-3 overall and 10-3 against the number in the league. And both 2 of those losses were to Samford, who is the class of the league. So everybody else, UTC is punching in the face. And they do it with a high-octane offense that is hard to guard.
And they are at Furman on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock.
A number that will be relatively low single digits. This is one of those that the algorithms don't really match up because there's not as much information on these teams as there are in other directions. UTC beat the brakes off of Furman earlier this year.
73-58 as only a 1.5-point favorite on January 6th.
Correct. And since losing at Auburn, UTC, and you take the Samford game out, they had one bad game against UNCG.
I see that.
And then everything else has been a win, and they didn't cover against VMI, but everything else has been – this is a team to keep your eye on, especially as we go into the non-football segment of the world, and we're looking for trends and tidbits.
And they avenged the loss to UNC Greensboro by beating them by 28 as a 4.5-point underdog last Saturday.
With scoring like 80-plus points per 100 possessions. I mean, it was unbelievably efficient. If you want to look into some analytics, UTC efficiently or offensively is amazingly efficient. Amazingly efficient.
I hope McNeese State and Will Wade win their conference tournament and get into the big boy tournament because I've been seeing
16 on 16. That's the kind of thing that UTC would do because Will Wade used to coach here.
Yeah.
Put the Mocs, if the Mocs could win the Southern Conference and Will Wade's McNeese State could win their conference, and they could figure out a way to get them to Dayton.
First four?
Yeah.
McNee's going to be McNee would be like a 13 seed because they're like
maybe
20.
So.
Yeah, they're not going to be that. Yeah. Well, hey, they could both be 13 seeds and or one be a 12, one be a 13, and pull upsets and be in the same region. Round of 32 matchup.
Hey, Will Wade can coach his cheating whistle off. Yes. I mean, that guy can coach basketball. He's also got a wide set of birthing hips. Have you seen that guy? I mean, that fella.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. And another under the radar team to keep an eye on is Grand Canyon. Indiana State lost the other night though. And that
I know they fell into the shadows of the spotlight. Everybody was talking about first time ranked since Larry Bird was here, and everybody went, "Oh, Larry Bird went to Indiana State. Oh, well, they're the Sycamores. That's a fun story." And then gag job.
Yeah, and while we're talking about mid majors, big one in the Ivy League tomorrow night, Princeton Yale. I like this Princeton team a lot.
If they're tonight,
well, they both play tonight, but they play each other tomorrow. And also,
back?
Huh?
A nice back-to-back in the Ivy League?
That's what they do every Friday, Saturday, because they have to go to class during the week. They play back-to-back Friday, Saturday.
Well, I hope they can afford decent travel accommodations.
But they don't have to go far, right?
All these schools are right. Drive me to the gym.
I have one play tonight. Over 139.5 for Villanova Georgetown. You got anything to share tonight?
Other than Georgetown sucking, I mean that's disappointing to me. There's a game out west.
San Diego State is 6.5 at home to the New Mexico.
Yeah, I like San Diego State there. I mean, you're at home. That was the one. New Mexico's good.
Fading. Yeah, but they're starting to fade. They're starting to fade. They're like in the bubble, in danger of maybe being a little hairy here down the stretch for them. All right. Parting shots. Tell them about Jay's plays. Tell them where to get your
timesfreepress.com. You can get the 5 at 10 every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Check that out. It's 5 things in the sports world and pop culture that I'm thinking about. And then Jay's plays is my afternoon email. On an 8-3 heater this weekend, even with a 1-1 night last night because Troy choked down the stretch. But was on Auburn, was on Tennessee, published these every day at 5 o'clock, and my reasonings why. We are now plus 96 units in going on 20 months of doing this, and the right at plus 70 games over 500 in our play of the day.
Woo. Okay. My college basketball picks on Vegas Insider the last 30 days are 37 and 25, 60% for 13.62 units of profit. You can always find my picks on Vegas Insider. You can look for my in-game suggestions and other betting notes, whatnot at Vegas B Edwards on Twitter, and all my contents at majorwager.com. For Jay Greeson, I'm Brian Edwards. Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson is in the books thanks to Bet Online, and thanks to our good friends at Southeastern 14. We'll talk to you next Friday.